Greetings, fellow Vikings! I'm Genesis, and Valheim has taken gaming by storm and a lot of my own time. So to help you all out and ease my conscience a little bit for the amount of hours I've been pouring into this game, here are 25 tips and tricks I wish I knew when I first began playing Valheim. During the beginning and setting up your first shelter in Valheim, it's good to keep a coastline in walking distance to early on help provide you with neck meat as well as flint for your Stone Age tech, and later access to the water for taking the boats out and fishing. A lot of your time in Valheim is going to be spent staring at the ground and foraging for twigs, stones, berries, flint, and the like. And while our bird pal Hugin does tell you what to look for, I think he fails to mention that you can actually hold down the activate button, that's E, to rapidly loosen these items when you look at them. This method also works on workshop equipment like smelters, but is quite a bit slower depending on your natural mashing speed. For that, I just ended up making a macro. The hammer is your construction and demolition tool, and can be built without a workbench. From there, you can use it to both construct workbenches for structures and repair buildings, carts, and boats within that workbench's range. You can also use the hammer in a nearby workbench to deconstruct pre-placed structures you discover around the map with middle mouse clicks, resulting in more wood to build your own place without having to chop down as many trees. These pre-placed ruined buildings can also just be refurbished if you're not feeling particularly creative and just need a shelter somewhere. You can use all of the space your shelter has to offer, even vertically. Do this by building shelves for chests, workbench add-ons, and even beds. Yes, you and your Viking buds can have bunk beds, and it rules. Another early tool is the hoe, and this is used for landscape work, flattening and raising the ground, and making roads. A trick that took me an extremely long time to learn is that there is a shift function with the flatten ground mechanic. If you're not holding shift, it will try to level the ground to where you're standing, as opposed to if you hold shift, it'll try to level the ground to where you're pointing. So if you're trying to make a slope and it's just not working, try holding shift. It might improve things a bit for you. And I'll put a quick tip in here on raising the ground too. Once you've raised ground up to where you want it to be, you can spend less stone to raise everything up to that point by aiming towards the top of that raised ground instead of starting from the bottom again. This is a method I like to use to create land bridges or land docks because I just don't feel like building sometimes. Once you've created your tools, armor, and weapons, you don't have to make more unless you lose them. Repairing is done at the workbench and forge for the respective items, and repairing does not require additional materials to do so. Unlike many survival games, you won't die from starvation. You'll just have 25 health and no regeneration of it. When consumed, food directly affects your max health, max stamina, and health regeneration while they're active. These bonuses will tick down as you get hungry again. Up to 3 different foods can be active at a time and are shown at the bottom left corner of the HUD. Food from plants like berries and mushrooms will grant more stamina, while meat-based meals will give a higher health bonus. Since eating is a constant in Valheim, I recommend storing food in the right column of your inventory for easy access. You can store and activate food items from your hotbar too, but I like to reserve that for all my tools. Stamina in Valheim is used in most actions. Running, fighting, blocking, dodging, jumping, mining, chopping, cultivating, you get it. Because of how many things are affected by stamina, having a constant rested bonus can save your life. It will double your stamina regeneration and give 50% more health regeneration. If it doesn't say rested in your upper right hand corner, throw down a campfire and have a seat for a spell for that sweet bonus. The duration of your rested bonus can be increased with comfort level by throwing down some rugs and furniture in your shelter too. On the opposite end of rested and positive status effects, there are also negative status effects in Valheim that will reduce your stamina regeneration. You can become cold during the night and wet by swimming or being caught in a rainstorm. Both of these cripple your health and stamina regeneration, but can be remedied by simply being by a warm fire. Avoid cold and wet status when you can, or at the very least, make sure you have a rested bonus to counteract their effects. While we're talking about it, there is a day and night cycle in the game, and at night everything becomes tougher as well as colder. But some resources will be more visible to you, like thistles, which glow in the night. But like I said, nighttime will be cold and enemies will make it their personal goal to interrupt whatever you're trying to accomplish. If you are stubborn and want to continue working on something at night, building a campfire nearby will both keep you warm and repel graylings and boars. Death in Valheim is guaranteed. Your Viking will be killed, it's just a matter of when and how. When death does come for you, the penalty is skill loss. Thankfully, if you die multiple times while recovering your gear, the penalties won't stack up if you are consistently running to your body. Also, after you do pick up your gear, you will get a corpse run buff for 50 seconds that'll let you make a quick getaway. Dying in the water is also a possibility, and thankfully, if you die in open water, your grave marker will float on the surface, able to still be reclaimed. The map of whatever your procedural world looks like will reveal itself as you explore. I'm sure you know that part. The map has other functions as well. On the lower right is the visible to other players checkbox, important if you're playing with other players and want to play cooperatively. Next to it is multiple icons that you can use to mark locations by double clicking on somewhere on the map. It'll allow you to label it, and there doesn't seem to be a limit whatsoever to how many of these markers you can have on the map. Once you've gotten what you needed from what you marked, you can cross it off with a left click or delete it with a right click. And if you are playing multiplayer, you can ping locations on your map for other people to see with the middle mouse button. A little inventory management tip: to drop items, you can either drag them from your inventory or control left click. Control left click also works for putting things into containers. Splitting items is done with shift left click. And splitting items can be helpful if you just want one type of item without filling up your inventory with all the junk you pick up by accident. Say, for example, you're going for fine wood and prefer to leave the regular stuff on the ground. Split your stack of fine wood into several inventory slots so you can just keep chopping instead of having to stop frequently to unload junk. Some enemies and prey will have stars under their health bar, up to 2 in the current build of the game. These are stronger versions of those creatures, and not only will be harder to take down and do more damage to you if they are aggressive, but they will also drop more items that is already part of their loot pool. So if you spot those 1 and 2 star deer early on, make sure you take them out, since that's a bunch of useful materials. Many weapons have secondary attacks that can be performed while pressing your middle mouse button while they're held. Each of these secondary attacks vary in style and usage. For example, the spear's secondary is a throw that can then be retrieved immediately after walking to it, provided your inventory is not full. While the knife's secondary attack is a leaping downward stab, a wonderful attack for stealth tactics. Cooking stations and campfires do not require a workbench to set up, so you can set up a campfire pretty much anywhere, including burial chambers and crypts, to refresh your rested bonus if need be. Campfires do create smoke, however, which puts them out if it gets too close and can deal damage to you. So it may be a good idea to break it down once you're done using it inside of a dungeon, and when it comes to building a shelter, there are ways to get smoke to leave while keeping the campfire covered. One of the ways is just creating a campfire outside of your home. You'll still get the warmth bonus, but it will be exposed to the elements and sometimes put out by rain. So the best thing you can do is just set up a chimney in your home. A simple hole in the roof with support beams and a cap will do, so long as the smoke has enough room to escape and the fire is protected. Thanks to the abundance of gray dwarves and frequency of chopping down trees, you'll also have an abundance of resin you've accidentally picked up. I recommend that once you start setting up your storage at your home base, wherever that may be, to have one chest specifically to hold resin. But a solution for the couple that you pick up just by wandering around, you can stop by your torches first and deposit those resin to keep your torches fueled. You can also treat this as psychological warfare because you are burning the remains of gray dwarves to deter more gray dwarves. Shields currently come in 2 forms, the round shield and the tower shield. Round shields won't block as much damage, but will allow you to parry if you time your blocks as the enemy strikes. When an enemy is staggered with a parry, you can deal bonus damage to them while they're staggering. Tower shields, on the other hand, are made for blocking massive hits and reduce the amount you'll stagger from absorbing them. The tower shield will slow you down substantially when held though, and cannot be used to parry. You can sheathe your current weapons equipped with the R button. Why would you do this? Because lots of them carry a speed penalty when wielded, usually at the bottom of their tooltip. This is doubly important if you're also wearing heavy armor, which carries an additional penalty to movement. The bow can also benefit from sheathing too when you've reconsidered firing that arrow and don't want to waste a shot. Canceling a knocked arrow can also be done with the block button or right click as well. Trolls are the terrifying alphas of the Black Forest, but can break stones and chop trees down for you if you're careful not to be hit by them. This little exploit can be used to skip some tech before you're supposed to have it. If you lead a troll over to smash a copper or tin deposit before fighting the first Forsaken boss, you'll be able to take the ore from those deposits. You will, however, still need to find all the other items to set up smelters and kilns though, like Surtling cores that you find inside of burial chambers. The special kind of beauty that Valheim provides, as well as your player-constructed homes that you would like to post on social media and other places, can be screen capped without the HUD being in the way. You can toggle the in-game HUD on and off by pressing Ctrl F3. Swimming is one of the many skills in Valheim, but there's not much reason to yet unless you fall overboard in open waters. Stamina will drain if you move while swimming, and once you're out of stamina you'll start to drown, draining your health to swim instead. To help you survive these kinds of mishaps, if you're playing cooperatively, you can simply wait for your team to rescue you or rescue yourself with a little preparation. Food and drinks can be consumed while swimming. If you eat food to raise your maximum HP before you've drained your stamina and wait for your HP to tick up, you'll take longer to drown. And if you're fortunate enough to have prepared and brought stamina potions, you'll be able to swim until they run out. Still, even if you ultimately die in open water, your grave will float on the surface to be reclaimed instead of being lost to the depths. When searching for copper deposits in the Black Forest, keep in mind that the only thing that separates them from large stone objects is the tiny veins of copper that glint when the light hits them in just the right way. Thankfully, because the reticle tells you what you're looking at, you can just run from rock to rock looking downwards and it'll tell you if it's a copper deposit right then. Copper also goes much further into the ground than it leads you to believe. If you've got patience, digging around the deposit rather than straight down will help you find the rest a lot easier than just charging through the rock in a straight line. If you've got even more patience, you can completely dig around the deposit, take out its support, and the whole thing can crumble. I don't know how much time this actually saves you, but it is satisfying when you watch gravity do the work. Since talking about copper, tin is the other metal needed to create bronze at the forge. Tin is much easier to find because it's near the shore of most bodies of water in the Black Forest. These will be much smaller, shiny, oblong stones. For those of you who like your renewable food sources, the cultivator is bronze tech and is the farmer's ultimate tool. Despite concern for learning a new mechanic, it's surprisingly easy to pick up and use. Right-clicking lets you choose what to get ready for planting and what to plant. You'll need seeds to plant, of course, which you can get from chopping down trees and finding wild carrot and turnip seeds in Black Forest and swamp areas. Replanting turnips and carrots whole will yield more seeds too. For the longest time, I was strafing back and forth and waiting about half a second to plant my crops with enough space between each other. But I did find a faster method too, and that was just having the camera at 45 degrees, holding forward, and mashing the left click button. Most of the starters of the crops give you enough of a gap for all of them to be spaced out properly. Once you become a plains survivor and get some flax and barley to grow for your next tech upgrade, know that these can only grow in the plains, so a walled-off farm with a trench is recommended. Both flax and barley can also be harvested a lot more efficiently than the other crops with the Atgear, that is the polearm's special attack. This will cut all the nearby flax and barley in one circular sweep. So now I would like to hear your tips and tricks when it comes to playing in Valheim, because there is a lot to learn and a lot to share. If you found this video useful, entertaining, or both, please do whatever it is you see fit to show that. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can help support the channel through Patreon, like the awesome people in the on-screen credits, including Wasteland Legend Sven. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Kato Genesis, and may you wander Valheim like you own it.